Hey YouTube, Sam here. Well, as you can see, I'm in a corner of my shop here that's got the welding table. Now this welding table is moved kind of back and forth around, and this seems to be a good spot for it. But unfortunately with my truck here, it comes into about here, and I have about 1.5 feet around it, maybe a foot, to get around my truck to work on it and stuff. So I am going to give myself a new welding table here. I'm going to reuse everything here, and you know, as I'm building it, you'll kind of hear where things came from and how I got them. So it is kind of scrap metal and steel that I got good prices on, but it's nothing you couldn't find very easily. Anyhow, so also I'm going to be tearing it apart, but to put it back together, I'm getting a new welder. But I haven't got it yet, so right now we're just going to work on tearing this thing apart. There it is, one last look at tear this apart. Let's see what I can use out of it. Definitely probably be using the legs, but I'll be cutting them to make sure they're all as close to even as I can, and we'll go from there. I realized that I think that this will actually not use up so much materials. I got an old blade on here, I might have to change it again, but I'm going to use a Sawzall and see if that might cut through a little quicker and not use up my blades. And I said Sawzall. I dare you, go ahead, leave a comment. I could give a rip. couple things that I wish I had done sooner. I found these bar clamps here, and I think I would have had a lot easier time welding this up had I maybe put them across the way I have them, across here and across here, and it might have helped with some of the levelness. But I think the way I did it got the job done to some extent. I'm going to go from inside to inside here. Right at 51. Okay. And then here, inside to inside. 51 and maybe not quite an eighth. So let's go outside and see where we're at on that one. Kick over 56 and a quarter. And just a little bit more there. I think we're pretty done. So I'm to a point now, got everything tacked up, and now I want to check and see how we're doing as far as square. I already did it corner to corner as I showed you, I believe, here in the last shot. But now I want to see if it's twisted. Now I can't remember the guy's name. He makes some pretty cool magnetic, or not magnetic, but corner braces for welding and stuff. Wish I could afford some of those, but he showed in his video, and I'll try and put his name somewhere here, doing string like this, and I couldn't find any string, so I'm going to take some tape, which will hold itself. I just got some really good fine line tape here, and do the corner to corner thing like this, although now I look at it, oh yeah, that'll work, I think. And that'll kind of stick itself, hold a little bit tight, and then I'm going to go corner to corner the other way. Hopefully this works. Hopefully it's right. And if they kind of touch in the middle, or try to pretty much, that means, whoop, that it's pretty close. Which it kind of looks like it's not. So let's see here. You know what? We're probably less than a 16th out that way. I'm pretty happy with that. I have a plan for leveling the table and that kind of stuff later on, and quite honestly, this is going to be a large flat surface, which 99.9% of the time, well, let's say 99.7% of the time is all I need. I don't really need perfectly flat, although the flatter I can get it, the better my project will hopefully turn out one day. So I'm going to go with that. I might do the winding stick thing where I put a level on both sides or something like that. Something like this. I'm going to go ahead and go forward a little more. Something like that. And then you can get down and kind of eyeball how she looks. And I gotta admit, surprisingly, this has come out much flatter than I could hope for the way I did it. Like I said, should have probably just did this and put these clamps here like this and built it like this. And but also the guy, like I said, I mentioned that showed that I watched the string trick. He kind of shows this 3-point thing, which makes sense, which is kind of what I did in a sense. So that's kind of why I did it that way. But in the end, I think we're good. So hopefully this is working out. I'm gonna burn this in a little bit here, at least on the bottom. This, I turned it around. I think I'm gonna make this the bottom. Why, I don't know, but that's my plan. I actually need to put this in as well now. I'm hoping, I kind of left this out because I wasn't sure where exactly I wanted it, if I wanted to do 2 or just 1. And I think I am just going to do 1. This is going to be a fairly short spread of table here. This is really soft. I know these are going to be what I'm going to use for my legs. I know this piece right here is actually the thickness of my top. So I measured from here all the way up, and you'll get a glimpse at what my plan is if I can get you out of the light. At how I'm going to adjust this up and down to level things. And then I'm going to have wheels that need to stick out a little bit up above the lowest part of this. Well, measuring that, just kind of a rough estimate here, I'm getting almost, by the time I put the tire on there or the wheel on there, just slightly above, it'll be about 38 inches. And I want my whole table at the highest to probably be 37 inches. So I need to take off a couple inches off of these legs here, because when I cut these I wasn't positive of what I was going to do for this at the time, and all this part, I hadn't got this far, so I'm going to cut a couple inches off of this. It's just one of those things, you know, before you start welding everything up, the way you measured it, you want to make sure you have all your parts and pieces with you to make sure that it's where you want it. So I'm going to take and cut a couple inches off of each one of these legs. And we got them all cut down. Do this again, just check everything one more time. And we're at 35 3/4. So about 36 will be the lowest it can go. And I want it around 37, and this will have plenty of adjustment. I'm not sure how secure and strong this will be. So worst case scenario, I grind this all off and I replace it with something that works better, but I'm hoping this works. Technically the bottom of the top of the table where the legs are going to attach, and I was going to actually use these square things like that and then weld this to that and then, you know, weld it all, or maybe even bolt it, so if I wanted to pull it apart I could. But I decided the lightest and easiest way to do this is actually I'm just going to take these, and I'm not going to let them come over the edge here or here, but I'm going to come right up to that edge. And I'm just going to, in fact, I might actually go just a little bit back and weld this around here. And then there'll be a little gap back here in this corner over here, but nothing I can't weld up fairly easily. I'm not too worried about it. So, anywho, I believe that's my next step. I'm just going to tack this actually like in one spot, probably right in this area here, so that if these legs aren't real level, I can still maneuver them this way and probably even this way a little bit. But for right now, we're just going to get all 4 of these tacked on and we'll go from there. Well, we got all the legs tacked in. And like I said, these will move a little bit. Now, if I move them a lot, the tacks will break, but You know, they got quite a bit of wiggle room, all of them here. So the next thing I'm going to do, and instead of burning these in and having them, you know, solidly in there, I'm going to measure. And because I just kind of eyeballed these, I'm sure my measurements will be a little bit different, so I'm going to have to measure all of them. I'm going to measure down here at the bottom where it's pretty well set, and that's right at 47 inches. And if I measure up here, we're at 46 3/4. So this needs to go out a little bit, and this needs to go out a little bit. Also, we need to figure out on both sides from side to side, so that, you know, this is 17 1/4 around there. I'll remeasure all this, measure twice, cut once kind of thing. This is 17 1/4. So this one's pretty good right here. The other thing we need to make sure is that I'm not racking it this way or that way once I tie them all together, or same way this way, so it's all level. Here's the problem. Once again, absolutely nothing in my shop is level, so that's pretty close, but it still needs to come up quite a bit. So if I try and level this like that, and based on that measurement, I'll be pushing these out of whack. So yet again, I'm going to make sure it's close. I'm sure it won't be perfect, but in the end, like I said, I'll have those adjustment feet here that will make up a little bit of difference here and there if it's a little wobbly. Doing the best I can with what I got. That's all we can all do. So, since these are movable, I know that's dead on 47. I'm going to try and figure out something of a leg that'll go between here and here. I've also thought about just doing a leg between here and here, here and here, and just having a center one. And quite honestly, I need to think that through a little bit more and figure out what direction I want to go that way. I got this kind of figured out where I want things. I cut this so that it fits snugly down at the bottom here, so I know that when I tack this in up here, and I actually haven't figured out how high I want to do this. I'm thinking, you know, this is going to come up a little ways here, and I want kind of a shelf thing, I've decided. So, you know, I'll probably measure some stuff that I want from here to here, and see what will kind of fit on this shelf and how tall some of my other things like this are. But for now, my point is I can stick this up in here, making sure that I'm level, you know, from the bottom down, because as far as I'm concerned, these are pretty well exactly the same, or as close enough as I'm going to get them. And mark it and weld this from here to here. Not weld it completely, but tack it. And that way everything still can move. It's easy to remove if I mess something up. But I'll put that up in there, and that'll keep these from going out or in from my measurements on the bottom. So now I can stick this in here, and I know that between here and here is the same as my measurement inside down below here. So it should be fairly straight up. Whether or not it's cut this way or this way, we'll take care of that later. Well, I got this one nice and snug down on the bottom here, but when I come up to the top, you can see, you know, I'm a good almost ½ inch out. So I'm going to put one on one side here and have to bring another one in. And I don't know which way I need to go here. So now's the time I'm going to go ahead and get my square here. I got a bigger one I might grab and see where I'm out here. And that's going out that way quite a bit. And this one's actually coming in this way a little bit, so this one actually needs to come out a little ways. Oh, too far. This one bends quite a bit. This one, I don't know, I might need to actually break the tack and try and do it. I might end up breaking the tack trying to bring it in. So we shall see. my bigger square here, just a carpenter square, and honestly I doubt it's the most accurate thing, but it's the best thing I got. And what I did is I actually took my clamp here and clamped it top edge here and bottom edge here, because this whole thing needed to go this direction. Hopefully that makes sense. So the top of this needed to go that way, and the top of this one over here needed to go that way as well. So the whole thing was kind of wrapped this direction. It needed to come back this way. So I've taken and I've kind of hooked this to the top, that to the bottom, and tightened it up here, and that should pull it down. Or in this to the left anyway. And I got her pretty darn close. I might do a couple more clamps of it, but like I said, I don't know how close this square is. And even from here you can tell that like these legs probably have a little bit of a bow in them, because we're touching in the middle but not at the bottom or the top. So that, you know, right there is either sticking out a little bit, or the square has a problem. But here we're pretty darn close, so I would say that leg is probably a little bit out. It seems like we're actually probably went that way a little bit too far, so I might back it off actually a little bit here, because this seems to be a little bit closer. Side again. And you're going to do this till you get it as close as you can this way. There, now we're back, we're like we were on the other one. I'm getting this about where I want it to be. Once I get it to where I want it to be, I'm going to do that crisscross thing as far as measuring. So I measure from one corner to another corner to another, and try and get that measurement exactly the same, which should take my racking out of it. Now here's the problem I'm having with these circular legs. There's no corners to measure from, so you got to kind of guesstimate. And the other thing I found, because I did this before my SD card filled up and cut me off there, because I kind of eyeballed where I put these legs and didn't do a good enough job of making sure they were exactly the same. My measurement from like this corner up to here and up from here to here is pretty off, but because I measured these out, these cross braces out real good, and made sure they were in the right places, my measurement from the bottom corner to this corner and vice versa are actually pretty square. So once I get that exactly where I want it, and I measure, you know, from here to here, and do the same thing from here to here, then I will go ahead and I'm going to weld all this up, and that'll, and these as well, completely do a complete weld where I'm at. And in my haste of being excited about this being all squared up, I didn't think about the fact that this needs to be squared up and the front needs to be squared up. And I realized this is square, which has actually brought these pretty well square side to side, but the front from that way to that way, same as it was here, is really off. So I am going to go ahead and weld that other back one there, but these front ones I'm going to have to wait until I can use this to square this part of it up, and I'm going to wait on these ones as well until everything else is kind of squared up. Now we're back with the square here, and I realized actually both of these legs need to come in towards each other. So really all I needed to do was take the square here and get it squared up, and that one's pretty good. And this one is actually real good too. So just by kind of pushing these in where I need them, they're pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and run a couple of big beads here and then go all the way around. Just the first bead will just kind of hold it in place hopefully, and then zing it all the way around. Well, for all intents and purposes, I could flip this upside down, slap a top on it, and I'd have a fairly flat welding table. Herein lies the problem. The floor in this garage is very wavy in certain areas. There's no real good flat spots, really. So I need to have some sort of leveling feet on it, which, for my plans for now, to see if it works, I got some fairly large washers here, and I don't know what size these are, but I got some carriage bolts and some nuts. Found this old bolt so I don't mess up any of my bolts here, and I hadn't quite decided whether I wanted the nut on the outside or the inside. Now, the reason I put it on the outside is if it ever breaks for some reason, one of these tacks break, and I go to spin it out, you know, I could just pop this off and re-weld it fairly easy. If I do it on the inside, I'm gonna have to grind this all out and get this whole thing off. So that's why I kind of was thinking about doing it on the outside. But on the other hand, I can get another, you know, ½ inch or so of distance if I do it this way. And I am kind of wondering if this table might be a little bit high for a few things, so I'm going to go with it, but I am going to tack it on the inside. Now I got a nut on the outside and a nut on the inside, and then the bolt going through it just to kind of squeeze it where I need it, and I got it all centered up best I can. And this is where I say, you know, you can hurt yourself doing this stuff, breathing it in. I have a mask and things like that, so I've taken the precautions I think I need to take to be welding these things up. You need to do the same. So if you don't like the way I'm doing something, don't do it, and I'm not responsible if you do. Well, YouTube, I'm going to call that a finished welding table for now. Now, this is just the first part of it. I obviously have a lot more to do. There's some welds I want to clean up, welds I would like to, I need to kind of re-weld and add some weld in a few places. I figured out a couple of mistakes I made. I can't get my engine hoist under this part. I'm hoping if I raise it up all the way, I'll be able to do that. But at the same point, I'm not positive. Another thing, if I do raise this up, more than it is now, I'm probably going to need to get some like lock nuts. So I'll have to pull this up again and put some nuts on the bottom so that it locks it in wherever I put it. That's something I didn't think about. Let's see. What else? I'm going to cut the top down, so therefore I'm not attaching the top right now. It's just going to lay on there for right now. And I got a lot more to do. I need to put wheels on it. I need to figure out how I'm doing the bottom area here, what I want to do with that, and several other things, not to mention cleaning it up and painting it, which I'm not going to do until I'm absolutely positive I'm completely done with it. I want to put some bars across here in places so I can put clamps and other things like that on here. So there's quite a bit more. But as far as a welding table, a simple welding table that anybody can do, this will get you started. This will get you up and going in welding. The top was a piece of cut off material from where my dad worked that my dad got me. The table part that it's resting on is stuff I got from the scrap yard for probably less than $100, I would say. The legs are from the original welding table, which were from my wife's grandfather when he passed. There was a table, the whole bottom part section that I had before, that was all just sitting out behind his garage out in the weather. So I just pulled it in and slapped this on top and called it a welding table for years. But anyway, so there's some sentimental attachments between my dad and my wife's grandfather. Actually, I believe that the pieces that came from here are from a table that was my grandfather's at one time that I cut up, had taken the top off for something else a long time ago, and then cut the legs off, or cut the legs up and did this with it. So there's a lot of attachment actually in this table. But anyhow, so I'm going to cut it down. I might have mentioned that already. Anyhow, and wheels, of course, I need to be able to move it. So I'm going to call this a video, though. Unfortunately, as with most of my projects, it's to a point where I can use it. I need to go do some other projects because I got too many things going on. And this will function for now. I'm definitely going to try and get wheels on it as soon as I possibly can, though. But until then, honestly, my welding cart did not hold up to the back wheels, did not hold up to the weight of my when I put the gas cylinder on the back there. So that's the next project I'll probably be welding up, is a welding cart. So keep an eye out for that video as well, as long as the rest of the videos that'll be coming up about finishing this off. Alright, this is Sam, Jack of all, Master of none. You all have a good one.